From Washington, D.C., this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I'm Hena Zuberi. First, the headlines. GOP nominee claims U.S. should be fearful of Muslims being elected to Congress. Twitter rolling out crisis misinformation policy. U.S. to fly in baby formula on military contracted planes. Muslim women in hijab face more scrutiny, professional consequences. Nations urged to fight food insecurity. More than 160 million children worldwide in child labor. And our top story tonight. Doug Mastriano, a QAnon conspiracy theorist and January 6th insurrectionist, recently won the Republican nomination for Pennsylvania governor. Mastriano is also anti-Muslim. He previously shared a post claiming Americans have a right to be fearful of a large number of Muslims being elected to Congress. Mastriano, a Pennsylvania state senator, is also a right-wing commentator and a frequent guest on right-wing media outlets. He talks about the 2020 election being stolen from former President Donald Trump, an unsubstantiated falsehood repeated by many Republican candidates. Mastriano has shared conspiracy theories on social media. Media Matters reports Mastriano sent more than 50 tweets with the QAnon hashtag in 2018 and shared Facebook posts claiming vaccines are deadly, causing autism. White supremacists are a growing national threat, warn the FBI, National Counterterrorism Center, and Department of Homeland Security. Yet in the wake of last weekend's deadly Buffalo, New York shooting by a suspected gunman who said he was targeting blacks, mostly Republicans in Congress deny that that's a trend. Senator John Cornyn of Texas told Raw Story it's a cop-out to blame the violence on white supremacy. He said it's violence committed by either criminal people or people who are deranged. Whether it's a hate crime or not, it doesn't make it any less evil, he said. Cornyn represents El Paso, which is still healing from a 2019 attack that left 23 dead and another 23 injured at the hands of a racist white supremacist. On Thursday, Twitter announced a new crisis misinformation policy in a bid to ensure viral misinformation is not amplified on its platform during conflicts and other crises. The new policy will help slow the spread of the most visible misleading content, particularly that which could lead to severe harms, Twitter said in a blog post. As part of the new initiative, Twitter will put warning labels on tweets with misleading information. It will prioritize high-profile accounts, including state-affiliated media outlets, verified accounts, and government accounts. The policy will first be applied to content concerning Russia's war against Ukraine before being expanded to other crises. Yoel Roth, Twitter's head of safety and security, wrote misleading information can undermine public trust and cause further harm to already vulnerable communities. Pfizer's new anti-COVID pill, Paxlovid, is helping stave off hospitalizations and deaths, a senior White House official said Wednesday. Demand for the treatment has soared amid the latest waves of infections in the United States. There's been a four-fold increase in demand over the past month, and an estimated 20,000 prescriptions are being written daily. That's why, despite a substantial increase in infections, there's no commensurate increase in deaths, White House COVID-19 response coordinator Ashish Jha said. Hospitalizations are rising, but not by much, as expected at this point, he said. The Biden administration last month launched an aggressive push to expand access to the oral antiviral at tens of thousands of locations nationwide. The U.S. government will fly in baby formula on commercial planes contracted by the military, Pentagon spokesperson John Kirby said. The airlift is aimed at easing a major formula shortage plaguing the nation. The lack of formula resulting from supply chain issues and a massive recall is leaving parents increasingly desperate. Mona Sahleh says beside her skills, qualifications, and expertise, her professionalism is evaluated by one more factor: her hijab. For observant Muslim women, wearing hijab is a religious obligation and a personal religious decision. But many Muslim women in Canada are facing undue professional consequences for choosing to wear it. Some Muslim women say hijab is often seen as unprofessional and people prejudge them as oppressed. An added challenge is they often are the only visibly Muslim person at their workplace. They may experience heightened scrutiny because of this, said Shafali Gunjal, Manager of Equity, Diversity and Inclusion at Citizen Relations. Gunjal said visibly Muslim women in the workplace may experience a lack of power and privilege due to their race, gender, and religion. The Biden administration and European allies are trying to develop routes to get Ukrainian wheat and corn out of the country. The move comes after Russia blocked Ukrainian ships from leaving with grain vital to food supplies worldwide, particularly in Africa and the Middle East. Officials are considering an array of options to get the food exports out safely by rail, sea, and air, CNN reports. They're studying possible scenarios and devising a strategy where Russia consents or not. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken will convene a ministerial meeting on food security and chair a discussion at the UN next Wednesday and Thursday. How can nations fight food insecurity? Details after the break. Stay tuned and we'll be right back after these messages.
If I could be you, and you could be me for just 1 hour. If we could find a way to get inside each other's minds. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes. Well, before you abuse, criticize, and accuse. Walk a mile in my shoes.
They took over my bedroom. Come on, come on. Okay, Dad. 1, 2, 3. Dad! You saved me. Dad?
Are you okay?
I'm fine, dear.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
Billboards are popping up all over the country with an
Our neighbors don't realize that Muslims are absolutely opposed to ISIS.
Salam. My name is Abdul Malik Mujahid. I'm an imam in Chicago.
16 shots! No me! No justice! No me!
So how do we bring up the energy which can really have an impact on the world? You need to build bridges of understanding among people, and we need to have America moving forward.
That lesson learned have brought the strength of humanity to America, which is the diversity.
Mujahid Talks, only on Muslim Network TV. Faithfully connected.
Assalamu alaikum everyone, it's your brother Zain Bika from South Africa. One of the first educational programs ever produced for Muslim children was the ever popular Adam's World series. The colorful and comical Muslim puppets stole the heart of a generation. Sound Vision will be releasing brand new episodes of Adam's World with the launch of a Adam's World app. Subscribers will enjoy new Adam's World episodes as they are released, as well as all the classic episodes of Adam's World. So visit adamsworldapp.com now to learn more, subscribe, and enjoy new adventures of Adam and his friends. And let's keep helping tomorrow's Muslims today. Assalamu alaikum.
Adam's World. Believe me, there's a lot to see. Bismillah. Let's explore.
To stop this genocide, we need your help.
Welcome back. On Wednesday, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres called for a concerted and a quick action to combat a surge in global food insecurity. The number of severely food insecure people has doubled in 2 years from 135 million pre-pandemic to 276 million, he said during a UN meeting on global hunger. More than 500,000 people are experiencing famine conditions, an increase of more than 500% since 2016, he said. The stark figures are linked with conflict. Guterres said, if we do not feed people, we feed conflict. The climate emergency is another contributor to global hunger. Guterres said 1.7 billion people were affected by extreme weather and climate-related disasters over the past decade. More than 160 million children are engaged in child labor globally, according to a new report released Wednesday. The International Labour Organization and UN Children's Agency, UNICEF, warn in the report that without relief strategies, child labor could rise by 8.9 million by year end. The increase is driven by higher poverty and increased vulnerability. Children need social protection, which reduces family poverty, diminishing critical drivers of child labor, agencies say. The groups called for closing the social protection coverage gap for 1.5 billion children worldwide, still unsupported by family or child cash benefits. Israel will not pursue a criminal investigation into the killing of Palestinian-American journalist Shireen Abu Akleh, whose death sparked global outrage. Abu Akleh, a veteran Al Jazeera correspondent, was fatally shot in the head May 11th while covering an Israeli raid on the Jenin refugee camp in occupied West Bank. She was wearing a helmet and a press jacket when witnesses say she was shot by an Israeli soldier. The Israeli military said that the operation included intense fighting and extensive exchanges of fire. In light of that, military leaders decided there was no need to open a military police investigation, according to a statement provided to the Jerusalem Post. The Palestinian Foreign Ministry slammed the decision and held Israel fully responsible for the killing. Israeli-based human rights organization Bet Shalom tweeted, "No one should wait for Israel's investigations nor expect that they will deliver justice for Palestinians." It added it's time for the world to finally wake up to this reality and take action. Russia's top gold miner, Polius PJSC, controlled by the family of sanctioned billionaire Suleiman Karimov, will now fund charity work. An Islamic foundation has become the corporation's largest shareholder. Said Karimov, son of Suleiman, gave his 46.35% stake in Polius to the Fund for Support of Islamic Foundations in Russia. The fund was created 10 years ago to support Islamic education, mosque construction, and other causes. It will use payouts from Polius to repay debt attached to its holding and fund charitable projects. Rawil Gainetdin, the Grand Mufti of Russia and head of the foundation, said that the Polius stake is the largest donation in the foundation's history. The Karimov family donated $150 million for the construction of the Cathedral Mosque in Moscow. Suleiman Karimov, a Muslim, is Russia's 11th richest person with a net worth of $13.5 billion, according to Bloomberg's Billionaire Index. Russian Muslims are the largest minority in Europe. Coming up next after the break is our in-depth analysis segment, so stay tuned and we'll be right back after these messages.
If I could be you, and you could be me for just 1 hour. If we could find a way to get inside each other's minds. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes. Well, before you abuse, criticize, and accuse, walk a mile in my shoes.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
Mr. Speaker, if I decide to wear a turban, or you decide to wear a cross, or he decides to wear a kippah or a skull cap, or she decides to wear a hijab or a burqa, does that mean that it is open season for right honourable members of this House to make derogatory and divisive remarks about our appearance? For those of us who from a young age have had to endure and face up to being called names such as Towelhead or Taliban, or coming from Bongo land, we can appreciate full well the hurt and pain felt by already vulnerable Muslim women when they are described as looking like bank robbers and letterboxes. So rather than hide behind sham and whitewash investigations, when will the Prime Minister finally apologise for his derogatory and racist remarks? Racist remarks, Mr. Speaker, which have led to a spike in hate crime. And given the increasing prevalence of such incidents within his party, when will the Prime Minister finally order an inquiry into Islamophobia within the Conservative Party, something which he and his Chancellor promised on national television?
Despite the development of a COVID-19 vaccine, millions around the world will not have access. We need a vaccine that's free and available to everyone, everywhere. It's time for a people's vaccine.
We are Justice for All. Headquartered in the heart of downtown Chicago, Justice for All is a global humanitarian initiative dedicated to raising awareness for human rights concerns impacting vulnerable minority groups. Our diverse team of staff and volunteers, led by Imam Malik Mujahid, work tirelessly to help Justice for All achieve their goals. We promote policies that protect religious freedom, address the root causes of mass displacement, and recognize the plight of refugees and forced migrants. Together, we can continue to stand up for justice. Justice for all.
Welcome back. To discuss the issue of global food insecurity, let's go to Imam Abdul Malik Mujahid. Over to you, Imam Mujahid.
Thank you, Hena. 2 years of pandemic not only has taken lives of 1 million people in America, but there is another type of a challenge which is coming up, and that is about the food security. How to feed almost 8 billion people around the world. Today, the United Nations Security Council is debating food security issues, and UN chief is calling for the world leaders to pay special attention to that challenge. To discuss what are the issues of current food crisis, what can be done, we have a person who is a professor of sociology, but director of the Center for Studies in Food Security at Toronto Metropolitan University. Professor Mustafa Coach. Assalamu alaikum, welcome to Muslim Network TV.
Alaikum salam.
So what is the current food crisis?
The current crisis is tied to the war in Ukraine and or the Russian aggression in Ukraine, but the situation should not be just associated with that. We have in the 21st century we have experienced 3 other food crises in 2008 and 2011, and then the COVID. These were all crises. This is the 4th one in 20 years. And each time the authorities said that we have to do something, but not enough was done, or practically very little was done. When there was an emergency, they did their best and then they forgot. We got back to the normal. The problem here is not just Russia's attack to Ukraine, but Russia's heavy role. Both Russia and Ukraine are the greatest exporters in the world. Like Russia is the biggest wheat exporter. Ukraine is the 5th biggest wheat exporter. And they together, they also control 19% of barley, 14% of wheat, 4% of maize, and more than 1/3 of world's cereal exports. When you have only 1 or 2 countries control world's supply, then this kind of problem is inevitable. And many countries, Egypt, Turkey, Iran, Bangladesh, Lebanon, Tunisia, Yemen, Libya, Pakistan, are heavily dependent on these 2 countries for their grains and for their oil seeds.
So, Professor Koch, are you worried that just like the other 2 food crises this century, people will forget about this, or is it going to lead to some lasting changes?
I hope not. I'm afraid we may experience some lasting changes, and this is not just related to the emergency right now between these 2 countries, but problem is the heavy reliance on a few countries and heavy reliance on a few corporations. Like 5 companies, literally 5 companies control practically almost all of world trade in grains and oil seeds. So like even if there was no war between Russia and Ukraine, these companies could control the prices, could control the supplies, and dictate prices to the rest of the world. It's like the oil companies controlling the whole oil trade. So it's just like the heavy concentration of powerful nations, powerful corporations in supply, in exports, are the biggest problem. And since the earlier crisis in mid-1970s, you may remember, developing countries, poor third world countries were told not to produce, not to achieve self-sufficiency in food supply, and they were encouraged to produce commodities for the world markets. In the meanwhile, we told them that we could supply them from the West with food they need. But each time when the crisis hit, these countries, these poor countries, pay the price. In 2008, 2011, what we celebrate as the Arab Spring destroyed many countries in the Middle East. We have more than 4 million Syrian refugees in Turkey, more than 1 million Syrian refugees in Libya, in Lebanon. Libya is destroyed. Many people, many African nations who used to send seasonal workers to Africa are unable to benefit from those remittances. These people are trying to escape to Europe. They cannot, because there are no jobs, there are no opportunities, and European borders are closed. The same borders that could be overnight open to Ukrainians, which is a wonderful thing for Ukrainians, but the same borders were closed to Afghanis, to people from Syria, people from Iraq, people from Libya, people from the rest of Africa.
Do you think that smaller nations will learn the lesson of self-reliance in terms of food production? Do you think this is something being talked about?
I hope so. I hope so. And now, like always, the FAO, Food and Agricultural Organization of United Nations, World Food Program, are now saying, oh, you know what? Stop relying on fossil fuels. Stop relying on artificial fertilizers. Encourage food production for your economy. Encourage regional food supply and food security programs, regional reserves, which are reasonable, and these are really good policies. But as soon as the crises are over, we go and tell them, forget about food production. If you want to receive any credit from us, keep producing commodities, even though the price keep declining. Price of those agricultural commodities keep declining. Interestingly, the only time when the price of agricultural commodities increased since 1974 was during the crisis periods. In early 2000s, the price of commodities, agricultural commodities, hit the bottom. Farmers were selling things below cost. And that's why many farmers in the developing countries, as well as in the Americas and the European Union, stopped farming and moved to the cities and left. And what we experienced is increasing concentration in the countryside as well. Since the beginning of the century, food prices have been increasing steadily. The prices farmers have been receiving have been declining. And I'm talking about the United States, which is one of the biggest agricultural producer in the world. And in the developing countries like Pakistan and in Turkey and other parts of the world, in Africa, this is not even possible. Many people left farming and forever, and they come to the cities. They are hungry. They rely on the global markets.
So do you think that the poorer country is going to face even bigger problem in this current food crisis?
I'm afraid so. Many countries who have been heavily reliant on Russia and Ukraine, and most of them are in the Middle East, North Africa, and South Asia, are going to suffer seriously. And this crisis is worse than the 2008 and 2011 crisis already. Already in 2021, a year before Russia went to Ukraine, the food prices have been increasing. Right now, FAO has a food price index. They have been collecting data since 1990. This is we have all-time highest numbers achieved in March. We are waiting to hear the results of May prices, but already the prices are early in June. They will declare, but the prices already are the highest. And many countries in South Asia, in the Middle East, North Africa, and Sub-Saharan Africa rely heavily on the grains and oil seeds to feed themselves. And many nations are not selling, thinking that the prices may go up. For example, Turkey went to India, wanted to buy wheat, and India said, well, I'm sorry, we are unable to sell you wheat right now. And the shipment of these food items will be very, very costly. Already, prices are very high in many countries, and soon we will be hearing other orange revolutions, other street demonstrations, because people will go hungry. And instead of blaming the global food system, they will be blaming their own governments.
Thank you so much, Professor Mustafa Koch, professor from the University in Toronto area, for your time. Back to you, Hena.
Thank you so much, Imam Mujahid. That's all from our Washington studios tonight. Thank you for tuning in. You can find previous episodes and more on our YouTube or Facebook. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV or visit muslimnetwork.tv. Assalamu alaikum and good night.